Hello and welcome to the Create Good Stories podcast. I'm your host, Eyre. I am completely enthralled by the idea of stories. Stories are what motivate us. Stories are what keep life interesting. Stories are what can ultimately help us to have a good life. So this podcast is called Create Good Stories. It's dedicated to figuring out how we can make the story of our day, the story of our month, the story of our life, a good story. That doesn't mean a perfect story. That means full of ups and downs, but ultimately has a positive outcome. To me, creating good stories has so many different aspects to it. And I want to understand how to make sense of, shape, and create a good life story. And that's made up of many small stories along the way. So in this podcast, I'm going to first start with my brothers, my childhood stories. And we're going to go back and forth with some playful banter about some of the things we did as a family and some of the things we did as brothers when we were young. Then after that little story, I will have a full interview of a diverse set of people, mostly dads in season 1, on their story of being a dad and their story of connection with their kids. So, let's get started. We'll start with introductions of my brothers, and we're going to tell a short, fun story about our childhood. And then we'll get right into the first interview, which is with my daughter, Annina. Just to give you a little bit of context into their introduction, this was recorded a few months ago, and we had just had a wonderful dinner together, and we were reminiscing about it. And without further ado, here are my brothers.
I'm Eli. I'm Tal's youngest brother, and I am happy to be here together with
Noah. I'm also Tal's younger brother, right in between Tal and Eli.
We just had a nice hibachi dinner to celebrate,
It was amazing.
and it was great. How are those scallops, Tal?
Scallops were very good for this area.
I think they caught them like in a nearby reservoir.
They were really good. It was really good. And the guy was amazing. The guy was throwing the shrimp.
I was 1 for 2 catching the shrimp in my mouth. These guys were both 100%.
We wish we had slow-mo videos of everyone right as they went to catch it. It gets pretty intense.
So guys, I thought it would be cool if what we did is to start each podcast, we just tell a little story about our upbringing together. And we were just driving here and we were talking about how we had a limo. So we want the first story to be about the limo. Who wants to tell that story? Because it's a good story.
The limo. Yeah, so we lived not too far away from a mortuary, Larkin Mortuary. Coming home from a lot of places, you drive past it. And one day we drove by and there was an old limo for sale. And our dad, being the eccentric, awesome guy that he is, was like, I'm going to buy that thing. So he bought it. And I was just remembering, like, the first ride in it, we drove it through a drive-thru at Wendy's. And it made it through.
Yeah, it had 6 doors, including an optional middle fold-out seat. And if you hit a bump in it, it would just kind of bounce for about half a mile.
It was a Cadillac.
It was a Cadillac. It was like the car that the family would ride in behind the hearse, I think, at the mortuary.
So it was really dark blue with a little red stripe.
We got a limo. We got a limo driver cap. We could drive around and pick up dates with that thing.
And this is perfect because it actually looked like the limo on Dumb and Dumber. So we're going to tie in a movie quote every time we do this. We do a podcast opener, so we have to do a Dumb and Dumber quote.
I'm talking about a place where beer flows like wine, where the women instinctively flock like the salmon of Capistrano. I'm talking a lot about a little place called Aspen.
Well, I'll do one from when he's actually in the limo. Excuse me, I'm trying to find a lecture and my driver's a bit lost.
You go straight over.
Straight ahead over the bridge to the left.
That's a lovely accent. New Jersey?
No, Austria. Well then, good day, mate. Let's put another shrimp on the barbie.
It was a lot of fun. A lot of good dates in that car. A lot of good times. And, whew.
Yeah.
We have to say what happened to the limo.
So basically, it's something like this. Hey guys, hey Dad. Dad says, hey guys, you remember that limo? Well, now it's a compact car. And I don't know, how much this was embellished, but apparently someone fell asleep driving a Dodge Ram in a residential area and
smashed the back of it, just totaled it. Well, it was parked, so no more limo for us. But it was pretty great car. A lot of great stories. So hey, I'm gonna introduce this interview now. So each of these podcasts is gonna start with my brothers and me, a little banter, a couple quotes, and then we'll go straight into the interview. And the very first interview is with my daughter, Annina. And this was recorded about a year ago. And she did such a great job. It was her first podcast ever. And I'm so excited for you to hear it. Welcome to the podcast, Annina. My daughter, Annina. Will you introduce yourself and say how old you are?
Hello, I'm Annina, and I am 11 years old and turning 12 this year.
Great, thank you. And I'm so grateful to have you on the podcast. You know, the whole book, Dad Mode, is about connecting with your children. And because I have one daughter, we were joking this morning that is my job, is to connect with you. So we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about 3 things today. Value boards. We love boards in our family.
We really do.
We're going to talk about awards that we give to you to help you understand your strengths. And we're going to talk about dad dates and dad trips. And that's it. So before we get started, do you have anything you want to say to the podcast world?
I love to dance.
Very nice. What other things do you like to do?
I like to do swimming. I like to hang out with my friends. I don't like homework. I don't. Important detail. We live in Switzerland, in Malanz. It's in the biggest canton. It's called Graubünden. Yeah, the reason why I speak English is because my dad's American. My mom's Swiss, and I was born in New York.
Very nice. And we're going to talk about that. So where have you lived in your life then?
I have lived in New York. I have lived in Switzerland, and in one canton, it's called Schwyz, and in the canton that I'm living in now, which is called Graubünden.
Great. Is there anything else that you want to talk about until we get started? Okay, let's get started then. Dad Mode is a book that I'm just super excited about, and it has 25 ways to connect with your child. We're just going to talk about 3 of them that are covered in the book today. So the first one is a values board. And what that means is basically, what does your family value? What is important to your family? And we don't write it on a board first. We actually, and when I say board, I mean we painted it onto a big canvas and we put it by our kitchen table. But before all that, we actually wrote down the things that are important to us. Mom would say something, this is really important to me. I learned it when I was listening to a podcast or reading a book. And she talked about stand your sacred ground. And so that was one of our values as a family because it kept coming up over and over again. Others were, do you remember? There was those 3 circles in it, and each of them represented one of us.
Yeah, they were all they looked kind of the same, but they were different.
Yes, exactly. And above it said connect, which is what we're trying to do. And a couple other ones. What were some other things that we wrote down on the board?
5 to 1.
5 to 1. What does that mean?
5 to 1 basically means if you have a bad experience, then that would be the 1. And then try to have at least 5 good experiences, and then that kind of is on the same level of the bad experience, because usually you remember the bad experience a little more than the good ones.
Wow, well said. Exactly.
It's so crazy how that works. It's this magic ratio where good is not as strong as bad. Bad experiences are pretty powerful. But as long as you have 5 good ones to every 1 bad one, you're okay. You're in the clear. And you obviously don't want to have bad ones, but we all have difficult experiences and we got to repair those. So another one that I can think of on that board, locus of control. What does that mean, Annina? Locus of control.
It basically means that you are in charge of yourself and not someone else, and that you control what you do, you control what your body does, you're in charge of yourself.
Great. And as you were little, you probably, when you were really small, you probably had a lot of, the locus of control was in your parents' hand because you didn't know how to take care of yourself. You were just a little baby, you know? As you grew up, we helped you more and more to feel like you are in control of certain things of your life. Brushing your teeth, or...
Yeah, that I could do with 6.
There you go. Or anything that you learned how to do little by little, we wanted to make sure that you were the one in charge of those things, not us. And so slowly that locus of control goes from the parent into you. And you're doing it more and more. I think there's still a lot of things that we're helping you with. But our goal is to help you to transfer the locus. The locus means the place or the location of control from us controlling and kind of helping you understand how to be in this world to you making your own decision. That is a really cool one. And anyway, we came up with maybe 10 or 12 values that were brought in by me, by Mom, by Annina, and then we basically put them all onto this board and we would refer to them. Like if you were having a hard time with a friend, you would say something, we would say, let's remember what this stand the sacred ground means, which Mom or Anita learned from one of her favorite people, Brene
Brown.
Good. Well, standing your sacred ground, to me, would mean being grounded on who you are and what you want to do. Not puffing up too much, not being like, oh, I'm so cool, I'm the best, don't worry about it. Staying where you are and being that person.
Yeah, that's a good explanation. I mean, if you stand your ground, then like if you have an opinion on something and someone has another opinion, then you can say, well, I think that, and then you don't have to say like, oh yeah, if like other people are like saying some not very nice stuff about maybe your opinion, like if they don't like pizza, which is a crime, and I would like pizza, then I could say like I like pizza.
Well said. Well said. So you're giving examples of how you do that already, which is wonderful. And so that goes to the next thing is the vision statement that we have on our wall by our door. What does that say?
It says, love first and create good stories.
Great. And what does that mean, love first?
It just means love a person before you like start criticizing them.
Beautiful. Well said. Yeah, I think that it came from something that Mom experienced, Anita, when we were doing some volunteer work, and there was this really nice lady who introduced us to the whole organization, and she just showed so much love at the very first. She didn't judge us, she didn't do anything, she just loved us, and we felt so comfortable and so equipped to be able to help because of that love. And we were so influenced by that we wanted to do that with other people. And the second part of the vision statement is create
good stories.
What does that mean?
It kind of means, it means like basically in our family, or when I was little, my dad used to tell me a lot of stories, and that was like one of the reasons. But what it means is to have like a good time, because like your life is a story, and you should have a good life. You should have a fun life.
Great. So that's thank you for saying that thing about stories, because we actually did tell, probably I told you thousands of stories when you were little. Every night you would ask for a story, or during the day when we were driving places or wherever.
When I was bored.
Yes.
Or when I wasn't allowed to do anything else, like, well, not anything else, but like if I had to stare out the window if I was bored when I was little, and then I'd be like, Dad, can you tell me a story?
Exactly. And when you said, I'm bored, what did I say?
It's good to be bored.
Yes, I love it. It's so good to be bored sometimes, but I did end up telling you a lot of stories. And in this world, there's so much stimulation with all these devices and everything that everybody has. And when somebody's bored, they actually get a lot thought about, and they actually figure out new ways to entertain themselves and not just watching screens. So that's one of the reasons. But then we talked so much about stories. And what were some of your favorite stories? What were they about? Can you remember anything?
They're about Supergirl and Superman and the Ninja Turtles.
Yes. And who are the main characters in most of your stories?
Me and this little girl named Pixie.
And what is Pixie like?
Pixie's this little girl, and she really likes me, and she's like kind of like my little cousin. She's my neighbor. Like, she lives really close to me and stuff. And when we go places, she goes to our suitcase.
That's right. She goes into the suitcase. And you guys always have an adventure. And she's kind of funny, right? She sometimes doesn't quite get stuff, and you teach her. So almost every story that I told her would go back to these two people, Annina and her friend Pixie. And what were Pixie's parents' names?
Frodo and Daisy.
Yes. And they would sort of figure something out in this story, right? And that was really fun, but that was a way to go into this idea of create good stories, because our lives are a big story. Every day is a little mini story. Every hour can be a story, but every month, every year, every decade, and the whole life can be a story. And we want to figure out how to shape and create good stories. And that means if our family's having a little bit of a fight or misunderstanding or difficult time understanding something, that part of the story is a little bit dramatic. It's a little drama going on, and every story has some drama. Let's move on to topic number 2, and that is the award store. One of the things that I talk about a lot in the book is helping your child understand their strengths. And one of the cool things that Annina does, or that we did together, was we started noticing her strengths. And these are things that, they're not things that I think that you're good at and I want you to be good at. They're things that you just naturally like, whoa, I didn't even really talk to her about it. She's just really good at that. And so, do you remember one of the first things that we made into an award?
I think the very first award was the Noticer Award.
Great. And what does that mean?
It meant that I like noticed things that it wasn't like, oh look, there's grass on the floor. It was more like, oh look, there's a purple flower with this really cool texture on it or something like that.
Well said. And you became really good at noticing things. And we were just joking in the car sometimes, and I'd be like, hey, I get the noticing award because I just noticed how cool that cloud looks. Or, I remember one time you were in the back of the car and you were eating like little crackers, and the way that they broke open, it looked like a little animal or like someone in their bed, like tucked into their bed.
Oh, yeah, those, the peanuts, when you break them open, it looks like there's Santa Claus is in the bathtub.
Exactly. That's the kind of stuff that you just would notice that and you say, hey, Dad, look. And in life, it's so important to be aware and noticing. And if we're on our devices all the time, it's hard to notice. You can notice things in the device. So
also, those are nuts, not crackers.
Yeah, but the other one was actually, it was these Davida crackers that you were eating. I don't know if you remember this, but
No.
they broke open in a certain way, and you leaned up in between the two front seats of the car, and you said, Dad, look at this cracker. It broke like this, and it looks just like, it was like an animal, or it was something. And I wrote it down because I was so impressed with what you noticed. And so what we did is, when my Anita and I started noticing some of these talents or these strengths in Annina, and they kept coming up over and over again. We're like, that's it, we're making an award. So I would go into your room maybe after or before bed or after you'd gone to bed, and I'd draw up an award, like the Noticer Award, and draw some of the things you'd noticed around it. Really take just 5 minutes, and then I'd put it up on your door, on the inside of your... First it was on the outside, but then when they started piling up, you kind of wanted to have them on the inside of your door.
And we have like 13 or 14 awards.
Yes, and Annina just took them down when
I wanted to put something else on my door.
She's now turning 11. She's decorating a room, and she was very kind about it. She said, Dad, can we take them down now? They've been up since I was like 3, 4. And so we were going to put them into
This folder.
a folder so we can remember them, but she wants to do something else now, and that's totally cool with me. So there's like 13 of them. Can you remember any other ones?
It was like the cleaning award, where like, for some reason, like when I clean, I do it really thoroughly. I don't know why. Like once I like start it, I do it like almost over thorough. Or I just do it very unthorough, but usually I do it thoroughly.
That's beautiful. And that ties into what we're doing this week. This week is a holiday for Annina. And the theme of this week, and this is not normal, but it's teaching Annina to work. And so, what did you do thoroughly this week when you learned how to do some really good cleaning?
I had to clean the car, inside and outside.
And she did such a good job. She cleaned the corners, she cleaned the doors.
I'm 11, Dad, I can do that. So then we're in our hut right now, and then we have just like redone it, and my dad screwed these screws into the wood floor so the wood boards would kind of stay down. And it looks kind of weird because there's just like holes in the floor everywhere. And so we like got these wood nails, and you have to like saw them off. That's what I did. And then you have to like sand them down because otherwise that's not very, nice.
That's great, yeah. And just to give some context, yeah, we have a little mountain hut up in the Alps that we're really, really lucky and grateful to have. And it was something that was my wife Anita's grandfather's purchase, and we were able to purchase it before in 2019. And so we've done a lot of work together as a family to renovate the inside of it and the outside, with a lot of help as well. But that's the context there. And then you also cleaned the bathroom. Can you tell about that?
Yeah. Well, I guess you're not allowed to tell. I cleaned the sink, I cleaned the bathroom, I cleaned the shower.
You cleaned the toilet.
Sorry, I said toilet. I said bathroom, I said toilet.
Okay, cool. You scrubbed the toilet really well, and again, very thorough, which is was one of your awards, which is cool. I can think of a couple others. Inventor Award.
I love to make stuff.
She just goes in her room and started with Legos, but she just creates like little toys for her cat, Cleo. Or what else do you like to create?
I don't know. I like to draw. I like to sketch things out. I like to sketch things out and build them together. We have this foamy stuff that you can like build together. It's like material to build for like little models. I like to do that. Yeah. Ooh, another award is the cooking award.
Yes, cooking and cleaning award.
Cooking and
That's
cleaning.
right. And what do you like to cook?
I like to cook, but I like to bake. Baking is like one of my highlights.
How did you find out that that's something you like to do?
My friends and I got bored, and we didn't know what to do, and we were like, okay, let's just, I don't know, we somehow got the idea of baking, because I think they saw this baking video or something. And then it like became a tradition of every time when they come over, we bake like a cake or muffins, or we like make a cake and then we do like cool frosting on it or something.
Nice. And what are the favorite things that you like to cook with your dad?
Usually on Sundays I sometimes help you. With
Yes.
it's like curry and rice usually.
Yes. And for desserts?
And for desserts, we make limousine cookies, which are very good cookies.
It's this beautiful, famous bakery on the Upper West Side
of New York.
Actually, I think it might have started like downtown somewhere. And now let's move on to topic number 3, which is the daddy dates, or dad dates, dad trips with your children. So let's talk about daddy dates. What's the first daddy date you remember?
Okay, so in New York, we used when I was my dad would get on his rollerblades, and I would sit into the stroller, and then we would go to this really classic barn, and it was like red with like white on it. Like the boards, like some parts were like white, and I loved it there. I loved the animals, I loved the horses.
Yes, and you were really young, like 3 years old. So I don't know how you remember that, but yeah. So we lived right by a park that went on a bridge over the East River from Manhattan to this little island, and there was these horses on that island in a barn. We would throw rocks into the East River, and we loved that as well. That was a really good memory.
Oh yeah, and we also went to the park, and we there was like this river there, and there was like this log, and we used to sit on the log.
Yes,
it was very special.
It's not very common in Manhattan to have a big log that you can sit on because it's mainly concrete, but we found one, and we had a lot of fun there. And then any other daddy dates that you remember?
The first one in Switzerland was when we had moved there. In the first canton, it was the Canton Schwyz. And we went to this bakery, and there were gummy bears. And there weren't gummy bears, there were these strawberry gummy bears. And my dad bought me one, and I loved them.
Yes, they were so good, and I remember you sat down on the thing, and you were like, this is heaven. We still love everything gummy, don't we?
It's very good.
But we try to limit our junk food as well, but we definitely enjoy some gummies. So daddy dates are really, really fun for the dad, just for all your dads out there. It's just this amazing chance to just be one-on-one and just talk about things. And we've had a lot of that this last week. As we've been doing the work, driving around. We got a trailer. We got a new bed for Annina. She grew out of her kid bed. And all that driving and all that talking was so nice. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't want you to bring any kind of device with us on some of the time. Because we talk and we actually learn about what's going on in each other's heads. And that's a wonderful way to connect. So let's talk about a little bit bigger daddy dates that we do 2 every year that are kind of bigger ones. One is Oregon and the other is London.
Well, we kind of stopped the London thing.
Tell us about London first then.
So London we started with what age?
Probably 4 or 5.
4 or 5. We would fly to London, and we would go visit our aunt, my aunt, his sister.
Yeah.
And we would always go see a play, a musical and a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the first one was, it was about this boy and these snowmen. I don't remember what it was called.
The Snowman, actually.
It was called Snowman. Yeah. And then this boy started flying. I leaned over to my dad. I was like, Dad, I can see the cord.
Oh, that was a noticing award right there. You could see the cord. They didn't quite put the lighting right because you could see the cord. It wasn't really flying, right? But it's a really London centric play that a friend from London told me that's a great thing to bring your daughter to, and it was really great for that age.
Yeah.
And what else did we do the other years?
The other years we basically did the same thing over and over. It was just different plays and movies.
Yeah. We went to Lion King one year.
Yeah.
What else did we went to? I remember we went to Matilda one year. And the last year we went to Wicked.
Mm-hmm.
There was
Wicked
one other
was
one
really
that we went to that was, I don't remember, but...
And like the movie, there's like the highlight probably about all those years was Frozen 2.
Yeah, Frozen 2 came out. So we went to it there, and that was pretty fun. We went to Harrods and all those cool places. So many good memories together.
Oh yeah,
Double-decker buses.
Yes, double-decker buses. And we found pens every time we went there.
Well, that was another noticing award. Annina's walking through the tube, and she's like, Dad, a pen. Seriously? Wow, that's
Every
random.
time we found a pen.
And then on that same trip, you literally found like 3 pens on the floor. It was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, and the pigeons. I love pigeons because they came so close to you, and they had like this like rainbow colored neck. I love pigeons.
Yes.
I still do.
So it was so fun also to see my sister and her husband, Charity and Ian, and their children, and we got to really connect with them on that. Usually it was around Thanksgiving or Christmas, so that was really great.
Yeah, like they usually already had the Christmas tree out. And one year, we went to Amy's place.
Yeah, our friend Amy, yes.
They have this huge house, and I have this daughter. She's like 1 or 2 years younger than me. And I like played with her and her friend, and it was really fun.
Yes.
They had like 2 turkeys and like how long was the table?
We had a really big feast, didn't we?
Really
With a bunch of their friends as well.
Yes, there were like 50, 60-ish people there.
So you get the idea. And of course, London is probably a little bit of an ambitious trip for those of you in the United States. But for us, it's just an hour or 2 flight, and pretty easy to get there from Switzerland. So we made that happen. But I would say see what you can do, even if it's something a little less than that. Maybe, for example, camping once a year with your children. And that is what we do with Oregon. Can you tell about Oregon real quick?
Oh, it's so fun. So you get to go with like 3 or 4. When you like kind of know like walking, talking, and all the like basic stuff you need to know.
Yeah.
And it's a 9-hour drive from where we go every summer. We visit my dad's family. And we're in the Sprinter, which is this huge car. And there's a bunch of kids in there. And once the AC froze and I thought it wasn't even on, what you basically do is we drive about 5 hours. Then we stop at Walmart. Everyone can just go shop. No one stays together. And then you just somehow meet back at the entrance. We have no idea. I have no idea how we do it. But we do. Yeah, and usually you can like buy stuff there with your own money, and when you're little, you can obviously ask your siblings or parents or something, and that's where we get the supplies. And then we drive another 4 hours, and we come to this piece of land that belongs to us, and that's where my dad and his family used to have a cabin. It kind of crashed.
Yes, we built a little cabin, like Lincoln log style cabin. From the wood in the forest, chopped down the trees, everything. And it didn't last.
It lasted, I think it fell over like 3 years ago. Not four.
Yeah, so that would have been, it lasted a good 30, 40 years. That's good.
Yeah. But what we basically do there is we have a bunch of tents and we have a campfire, and there's slack lines and swings and a bunch of tree houses. And there's like a zip line, and there's like a spring and stuff where we get the water. And we always stay up till like 12 or 1 in the morning. It's totally normal.
And it's just dads. So it's myself, my brothers, usually 2 or 3 of my brothers, and my cousin, usually as well, Ben and his family. And then every once in a while we have a couple other dads, but it's just dads with kids.
Exactly. And we had a prank war last year with the boys. It was really fun. even though we couldn't like put fish in their shoes or something, because we go fishing there every year as well.
One morning we go fishing. And just to give you some context, and I love hearing how Annina explains it because it's so cool. But the first year, you didn't even go, and you were too young. And I was living in New York City, and I just was tired of the concrete jungle there. I wanted to be in nature and using my hands and building something. So my brother Noah and I went up there, and it was the same land that we'd had from when we were little. We have these memories of being in this pristine forest up in Oregon, and we wanted to do that again. So we went up and we had to kind of dig out the trail because it was totally overgrown, and we had to use a chainsaw to cut through it all. But we kind of found the old cabin, totally overgrown, and we decided to just make a tree platform, one tree platform. That's the first one, And sometimes where we eat lunch and stuff on top of it. And we had so much fun.
All of them.
Now we have then there's like year 2 platform, year 3 platform, and there's just platforms, and then there's slack lines between each one.
And then kids are like, this is our platform, you can't come up here, sorry.
And then last year we made like a kind of like a girls like fort area, and there were boys. It wasn't a fort area,
it was a girls' clubhouse.
Sorry, clubhouse.
And then we're gonna make a second floor. And the boys have this really small one, they were gonna make it like a 4-floor one.
4 levels, so. And then there's these pranks that they're doing, and they're usually really careful. We haven't had any major accidents, a couple of cuts and scrapes, but knock on wood. But it was a really great experience, and even these little kids that are little little.
That's my little cousin Etta.
She's so excited to use a hammer for the first time.
It was so funny because there's like this huge hole in the wood. And you would put this huge nail, which is like really hard to hammer down. And then she gets this hammer and she like hammers it down, and then she like holds it up and smiles at the camera because it's a video for her mom, and she's super proud.
So we could go on and on about Oregon, but it is a big part of Annina's childhood, and we talk about it throughout the whole year. And we want to end the podcast by just giving a couple extra tips on how to connect and be in this dad mode when you're around your children. Some of the surefire ways of lightening the mood or helping having a nice evening as a family are
dance parties,
and movie nights. So what is a dance party?
Dance party is just kind of like you turn on some music and you just dance.
It's that simple. And you turn on your favorite music. We had sort of different songs we would use here at the hut or at our apartment, and we love it. It kind of relieves the stress of the day and gets us ready to get to bedtime. So, and then what about movie nights?
Movie nights are pretty self-explaining, I guess. What we like to do is popcorn and candy and a movie, obviously.
We've watched a lot of movies together, and Annina was just saying this morning or last night. She's saying, Dad, we do a lot of movie references. We quote a lot of movies. So
we have like 30 movie references?
We'll quote something from one of our classics, like Three Amigos or Princess Bride, or we'll talk about something we saw on Saturday Night Live. On, off.
It's if you want to look that up, it's Jenna Ortega's Saturday Night Live, and it's a skit of Parent Trap.
Yes. So all of these ways of connecting are so important. And Annina, I'm going to ask you the question: do you feel like your dad was connecting with you in good ways in your first 11 years of life?
80 or more %.
80? Wow. 80%. I'll take it. And that's exactly what I'm trying to say is it's not going to be perfect. You're going to have to repair when you make mistakes as a dad. And we have a lot of repair that we do. But for the most part, when we're putting that effort into connecting and also observing our children to see their own strengths and their values through giving them awards, and plus doing these yearly trips and movie nights and dance parties. These are some good ways of connecting. And that's it. Well, I'm going to leave the final word to Annina. Whatever you want to say as we check out.
So, we're going to hope you listen to this. And, bye.
Bye-bye. Create Good Stories is hosted by me, Tal Eyre, with the help of my brothers Noah and Eli Eyre. Thank you to Marco Vitelli for making the music come to life, and Kayo Bechle for the graphic design.
Oh, that's good. Wow.
I tried to start the podcast and I sat back in my chair and it made a very strong wood sound.
So good.